Hi, and welcome to today's 4-Minute Mark. We are looking at the story of Peter, disowning Jesus in Mark chapter 14, starting at verse 66. While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. "You also were with that Nazarene Jesus," she said. But he denied it. "I don't know or understand what you're talking about," he said, and went out into the entryway. Isn't it interesting that brave Peter, who is not going to desert Jesus even if everybody else does, there he is, and a servant girl who would be considered very lowly in that society, because not only was she a servant, but she was a woman, and Mark actually calls her a girl, so her testimony wouldn't have amounted to anything. Yet she says, "Hey, I think you were one of them," and Peter denies it. How quickly our faith and resolve crumbles at times. We make such promises to God, what we're going to do for God, and then our sinful nature gets in the way. Our fear gets in the way. Here Peter is giving in to fear. Fear that he is going to be discovered and put on trial and persecuted, despite the fact that he was willing to die for Jesus, supposedly. We make great promises to God, but we're only saved by grace because we break those great promises over and over and over again. Okay, so verse 69. Remember it said that Peter went out into the entryway. When the servant girl saw him there, she said again to those standing around, "This fellow is one of them." Now Peter gets a chance, to say yes. He had one chance to stick up for Jesus. Now he's getting two chances to stick up for Jesus. And what does he do? Again, he denied it, verse 70. After a little while, those standing near to Peter said, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." How did they know that he was a Galilean? Maybe from the way he dressed, but probably from the way he talked. Different regions had different accents. In the same way in the United States, if somebody talks like this, you know where they're from, right? If somebody talks like this, you know where they're from, okay? So they probably knew that Peter was a Galilean because of those indications, and of course Jesus' followers were from Galilee. Verse 71, he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man you're talking about." So here Peter has the third chance to stick up for Jesus and make things right, to say, yes, forget what I said before, I really am one of them. And not only does he deny it, but he calls down curses on himself. In other words, Peter is saying here, may God damn me if I knew Jesus. May I go to hell if I was ever one of them. May God punish me. May lightning strike me if I was ever one of them. Oh my goodness. I get chills up my back when I think of that. Not only did he deny Jesus, but he called down curses, bringing God into it. May God strike me if I was with Jesus. What denial. And yet, Peter is restored to fellowship by the grace of God after the resurrection, and he becomes one of the pillars of the church and one of the writers of our scripture. Do not ever think that you have sinned too far, that God cannot forgive you and his grace can't reach you, because look at what Peter has done, and yet God's grace reached him. Okay, more tomorrow. Bye-bye.